Oh, hey, Jill here, and you're listening to Organized Chaos with Jill. I'm your host and mom of three, and this is the show where we chat all the mom things and then some. So grab your coffee or whatever it is that gets you through the day, and let's get to it. Hey guys, welcome to episode 8. Today, we are going to be diving into a topic that I think just adds a little bit of sparkle to our day-to-day, a little bit something fun to your family life, and that is teaching kids to be spontaneous. And hey, maybe this is like a teaching episode for you guys too as adults. Yes, I've said many times throughout the podcast and different episodes, I am a planner. Big time on our road trips, I talked about that. I like to know what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I need, all the things. At the same time, I do also love being spontaneous. This is something actually very early on that connected my husband and I in our early relationship, was that love of spontaneous, spur of the moment adventures where we had some, days where, yes, we had things planned that we wanted to do, but then there were days where we just randomly decided to go to New Hampshire for a long weekend. We went to DC, and not just going places. I mean, sometimes it was just like, let's go apple picking today because we have nothing else to do. Those little adventures, helped connect us in our relationship and were always super fun. And now that our family has grown and we have our kids, we want to show the kids how fun and exciting these type of adventures can be, but also teach them that things don't always go according to plan, and that's okay. And what can we do instead? So that's what I really wanted to dive into about today's episode, and hope, you guys get some good tips and tricks on how to encourage spontaneous play with the kids. Like I said, if you are an adult that maybe isn't super spontaneous or struggles to break away from that need to have a plan, maybe this episode will help you too. So that being said, let's just jump into it. I definitely feel that being spontaneous is like a lost art. We are in a world where we are all so structured and following schedules all the time. I mean, even looking at the stores, it's like calendars, planners, there's all new types of electronics that go with planning and everything to build that mindset. And I definitely think that the being spur of the moment and spontaneous is definitely lost sometimes. And I know I'm not really into this yet where my kids are so young, but I know talking to other moms and, even my sister-in-law and her kids, there's constant sports schedules, extracurricular activities, band things, all this stuff that really require us to follow a schedule most days. But being spontaneous, I also feel, is such a vital skill, especially for kids. And I definitely think it's super important to talk about. This is something that encourages kids' creativity. It teaches adaptability as well as the ability to embrace the unexpected. We can only control so much in our lives, and sometimes it's important to realize that only control what you can control, and other things are going to happen. And how do we work around that? How do we deal with that? Being spontaneous and engaging in more of these spur of the moment playthings and adventures really helps children to develop problem solving skills, to develop resilience and other social abilities. I mean, this helps adults as well, but I think as kids are such in that growing and learning mindset, it's so key. So I want you to imagine a family day where instead of sticking to a rigid schedule, there's no soccer practice, there's no baseball game, there's no swim, there's no birthday party, whatever it may be. You just decide that you guys are going to get up and go with the flow and see where the days take you. These unplanned moments often become some of the best memories. I talked a lot about this on our road trip episode, that when we were on our 2-week road trip, after the first few days, we didn't always have the next hotel booked. We really didn't have a lot of planned activities other than a few. And that most of the time we were looking up, at the roadside signs to really plan the day's adventures. And those signs and doing this often led to some of the coolest sights And some of the best activities that we did on that trip, we went to like a random dinosaur museum that was part of a small local college in one of the states. That was really, really fun. The little boys loved it. They're so young and dinos are super cool. We got to see the Dances with Wolves movie set and this other cool little 1880 town. Again, I talked about all this on our road trip episode, so I'm not going to like dive in and talk about everything we did on that trip. If you want to know more, you can go back and listen to that episode. But I really wanted to just harp on the fact that like it was those spur of the moment, those spontaneous adventures that were like super, super cool and just created so many fun memories. So yeah. In last week's episode, when I was talking about how I kind of was on a 2-week hiatus, I shared that we took the kids to the beach on our anniversary. And in that moment, I said it was likely going to be our last beach day of the season. It's early September. It's starting to turn into fall, get cooler. Well, this past weekend, my husband was off for 3 days. Super, super rare. And for the most part, we had nothing planned other than wanting to get a few things done around the place. And so on Friday morning, we woke up and the boys slept a little bit longer because we weren't doing our usual getting my husband to work. And once we were all awake and the boys realized and got excited that Pod didn't have to go to work, we talked about what we wanted to do for the day. And well, it turns out the weather was beautiful. And I was super wrong in what I said last week because we ended up loading up the car and heading to the beach. And it was so, so nice. It was beautiful weather. Again, this late in September, it's like around here, you don't know what type of weather you're going to get. Today was like 40 in the morning and then it's like 70 during the day. So it's a fluke. But it was beautiful weather because so many people are in school and in work and everything. We basically had the entire beach to ourselves, which is an added bonus. And it was just an unexpected day that turned out to be loads of fun. And it was really exciting for the kids to kind of see this plan where every other time that we went to the beach, they knew we were going to the beach. They saw me packing the beach bags, loading up the car and everything like that. So it was really fun to kind of be like, hey, let's just do it on this day that we had nothing planned. And I know that they had a great time. James, you can barely get out of the water. William loves making footprints in the sand. And it was a long day. It was exhausting by the time we all got home, but it was so, so much fun. So let's chat about some tips to help encourage your kids to be spontaneous, right? The first one being, I think it's important that we create a flexible schedule. Routines are important. Yes, I speak about this a lot. Our family definitely strives on having a routine. I strive on having a routine. I talked about this in episode 1. However, that being said, carving out some time that's unstructured can allow your child to dictate their own activities. And that's a way that we can encourage our kids to be spontaneous. This doesn't have to be something that's done every single day, but maybe once a week. So maybe a Saturday afternoon, if your morning activities are done, your morning sports are done, you have free time, make that the time in the week that it's up to the kiddos what's going on. Maybe the weekends it doesn't allow for it, but there's a day during the week that there's no activities whatsoever. Make that the day you carve out some time. Whatever works for you in your schedule and your family's routine. But definitely having that little bit of time is just one way to start the process to encourage your kids to be spontaneous. And in that, I also want to say encourage open-ended play. And what I mean by open-ended play is rather than certain activities or games that have a clear set of instructions that are very structured, focus on activities and toys with less structure. Art is a super great example of this. A child can go with the flow and let their imagination run wild when it comes to painting, coloring, drawing, whatever. It's a great way that kids can just go with the flow, whatever their heart desires. There's no start, end time, clear instructions, you have to do this. And then another activity, which is something my boys are currently obsessed with, would be something like Lincoln Logs or Legos, building blocks where they can build towers, houses. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and there is no true right or wrong way, right? This is encouraging the kids' imagination and encouraging them to play without structure. Another way to encourage kids is by joining in the fun. Kids are sponges. They constantly absorb everything that they see and hear us do. Not always a good thing. But even something simple as like not making a plan, that takes away from what I'm trying to say. But even something as simple as like just spontaneously saying, let's go out for ice cream, or suggesting a game or activity that is out of the norm, something that you don't normally do, but having that enthusiasm when you suggest it is going to be contagious. And then the kids are going to start seeing like, let's go do this, like that spur of the moment thing. Join the fun. And going hand in hand with joining the fun, I think it's important to also share the moments and help to teach them the adaptability that comes with it. If plans change, demonstrate a positive attitude for the kids. I think even as adults, when something doesn't go as planned, we tend to get worked up. We tend to get stressed out. I know I do. I'm super guilty of this, where I let like things get the best of me sometimes when I had a plan in place. We were going to do this. Something changed. I feel like all out of whack. And now what am I going to do? And I know it's something so stupid and small, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way. So if you feel this way too, I'm with you. You are not alone. But knowing, like what I just said, that the kids absorb everything and they're sponges and they're seeing this is something that I don't want my children to necessarily follow my behavior in. I don't want them to see me getting stressed out and think that that's the norm and, build up all this anxiety and stuff for them. So it is important to show the kids how fun being spontaneous can be, and teach them how to adapt when things don't go according to plan. Because let's be real, things don't always go according to plan. Sometimes a wrench gets thrown in and we have to adapt. And I think in how we as adults and as parents respond to those things is really going to show the kids, first and foremost, how to react and respond to those things. And this could just be something as simple as you were going to go to the playground or the park or whatever. It starts raining out of the blue. What are you going to do instead? Rather than being like, oh my God, now we can't go, blah, 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 and getting worked up, just say, it started raining. We can't go to the park. Why don't we build a pillow fort inside? Switch it up so that even though they're bummed out and upset that maybe the plans changed, there's still fun things we can do, right here or indoors to avoid the rainy weather that happened or whatever it may be. So for us, we have a racetrack that's not too far from us. It's like pre-NASCAR amateur racers. They do other fun special events. There's a pumpkin smash coming up where they literally haul out a bunch of pumpkins on the racetrack and then the cars go over them, and it's crazy looking. But it's a fun and inexpensive activity for the whole family. And let's be real, as a boy mom, I fully understand cars are life. We have more cars than I know what to do with around the house. Although my boys will tell you they're not all cars. Some are trucks, some's a bus. I get corrected all the time. But this season, not once, not twice, but on 3 separate occasions, the weather gods were against us. It literally rained every Saturday, and every race that we had tickets to go to got canceled. This was my husband would take a day off from work to go, or get out of work early so we could go, or it happened to be his day off. It was just against us. And in each of 3 of these instances, we had totally hyped up our boys. We're going to go see the racetrack. We would show YouTube videos of the racetrack. I think before the 3rd time, we had a movie night and we made popcorn. We got candy. We set the mood. We watched Cars. We were so pumped and ready to go. And then, of course, the next day I got the email in the afternoon that unfortunately severe weather in the area. They had to cancel. Wah, wah. So in each of these 3 instances, we had to switch up our plans. And we were all bummed out, my husband and I included. It's not just for the kids. We really like going to the racetrack as well. It's just, like I said, fun, exciting, a cheap activity. And rather than dwell on it, we needed to decide to teach the kids, you know what? It's okay. We'll try again another time. rather than, sitting here being all bummed out. Let's go do X, Y, and Z. And I want to just make note, it's not that you have to go do something or have this big adventure. Being spontaneous, like I just mentioned, can be building a pillow fort in the house. Just doing something other than what was planned, or like a change of events type thing, but still making it fun and being enthusiastic. It doesn't need to be a big, great, super expensive thing. I will say, in case you're wondering, finally, fourth time was a charm. This past Saturday, we were able to go to the race, and we had such a fun time. The kids were running around. They loved seeing the cars. And yeah, so it was just a great time had by all. In case you were wondering, we did finally get to go. So anyway, that being said, as I've touched upon each of these little topics and ways to encourage the kids, I want to say that it is safe to say not every child is going to embrace the idea of being spontaneous, right? Sometimes not having a plan or making unexpected changes can totally cause anxiety. Like I just said not that long ago, I myself sometimes got worked up and stressed out when things don't go to a plan. So this happens to adults. It definitely is going to happen to a child too, especially because they focus so much on like what they're about to do and they get very excited, talk about it for days. And so it's definitely good to acknowledge the feelings of being anxious or scared to do something that you weren't ready to do or not planning to do. Acknowledge the feeling, but then help them work through it. And I think in this case, if you are a mom of a kiddo that, does get a little bit more anxious about things like this, doesn't really like change, think about starting small, introducing elements of surprise gradually, and keeping them simple. This could be just like switching up your dinner routine, or like if you do bath before dinner, maybe one day have dinner before bath time. Although I don't know many people that do bath before dinner, but that's just me. But just switching something small so it's not like super shock to the kid system, right? But also in introducing these things small, celebrate their willingness to go with the flow so that, they get that encouragement and that enthusiasm. And you're not just saying like, good job, you dealt with it, but really like embrace the fact that they've chosen to go with the flow rather than letting it get the best of them or their anxiety kick in. And that will help, change their mindset maybe. I think that works for adults as well. So as we wrap up today, just remember like teaching kids to be spontaneous is about creating an environment that's fun, but also where the kids feel safe enough to explore, take risks, try new things. It is encouraging, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Real life there. In encouraging creativity and adaptability and this sense of adventure, we're helping our kids to build a life skill, an essential life skill. It's trying new things like I just mentioned. It's taking those risks. It's going with the flow. It's understanding that life throws you curveballs sometimes. This is something that, we have to realize not just as kids, but growing up. So it is super, super important to teach our kiddos that. With that all being said, I hope you guys got a lot of info out of today's episode. I hope, like I said at the top of the episode, if you are somebody as an adult that struggles with spontaneity, if you don't necessarily like the idea of trying something new, I hope that this episode encourages you to push that limit a little bit more. And also encourages you to teach your kids to do the same, remembering that they are sponges. They see things how we, what we do, what we say, and they mimic that behavior. So it is super, super important to do what you're telling them to do. I know I've always used to say, like, do as I say, not as I do, but really it is important to model the behavior that you want them to do, especially in something like this, being spontaneous, having fun, those spur of the moment things. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And with that, I encourage you to go out and have a random adventure with the family. And if you do, drop a comment. Let me know what you did. I love seeing it. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Be sure to like, follow, and share this podcast. And if you aren't already doing so, follow us on Instagram at Organized Chaos with Jill. We'll have all the latest updates, upcoming episodes, and more. Have a good day. The best is yet to come.